Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's show. I am absolutely delighted with the guest that I have this week. He's been absolutely brilliant, especially with the Black Lives Matter moment. And also, he's absolutely supported Black members in organising and supporting them through traumatic incidences, such as being excluded from elections. Today, we have got Howard Beckett. Hi, Howard. How are you, mate?
I'm great, Andrea. Thank you very much for asking me on. We saw each other on Saturday at the rally. It was great to see you in person, and thank you very much for asking me to come on.
No, it's so great to have you, Howard. As soon as I asked you to do that protest, you said straight away, I'm up for doing it. You came, you delivered, and people took your speech in and they were listening. And that was the main thing for me asking you to come and do that, because I knew you would be brilliant for that event. So thank you so much for coming along. But Howard, what we're going to do today is focus on your other campaigning in terms of anti-racism. So Howard, can you let my audience know how you got involved with Show Racism the Red Card, please?
Yes, well, obviously, from being from Ireland, you understand the isms, Andrea. I grew up with sectarianism on a daily occurrence. And because neither of my parents were from Northern Ireland, my father's from London and my mother's from the south of Ireland, so they didn't really understand the dynamics of Northern Ireland. So I was unfortunate or fortunate enough, whichever way you want to put it, to not be sent to a religious school, and instead was sent to what was considered a state school, but it was in fact majority unionist. And as a consequence of that, I experienced sectarianism on a daily basis. So whenever I had the opportunity in my working life to get involved in Show Racism the Red Card, I did. And then whenever I came into the union in 2011, I became the union's lead for Show Racism the Red Card almost immediately. And it's just, and I know we're going to talk about it, because it's just a fantastic charity that really I can't personally give enough promotion to. It's a wonderful charity. And as you're seeing from the screenshots, 25 years this year, which is just an extraordinary achievement.
Oh, that is absolutely amazing achievement, Howard. 25 years. So can you tell us, what campaign work have you been working on with them lately?
Well, my involvement with Show Racism the Red Card is sort of weekly, really, Andrea. It never goes away. Jed Greby, who runs it as the CEO, is an extraordinary individual, as is Shaka Hislop, who is the founder of it. It has an incredible story, Andrea, if I could just tell the story of how it came about, because people often confuse Show Racism the Red Card with Kick It Out. And this is not a charity about racism within football. It's a charity about racism within society. But it uses the medium of football to try and educate young people. And it came into existence. Jed, who's from Newcastle, was running an anti-racist magazine 25 years ago. And Shaka Hislop, who was the goalkeeper of Newcastle United at the time, was at a petrol station, and a number of youths were racially abusing him. And then whenever he turned around and they realised that it was Shaka Hislop, they asked him for his autograph. And Shaka very quickly realised the power of football and wrote to Jed Greby with a cheque to say he would like to contribute to the magazine. And from there grew the birth of Show Racism the Red Card. And now the work that they do on a weekly, monthly, annual basis is just extraordinary. So it ranges from having courses in the workplace, looking to constantly find ambassadors. Each year they have a schools event, which is just the most uplifting of events to actually be at. They have a number, which is a competition, a schools competition, where they create a video that is about anti-racism in society. And you see all these young kids being educated about the importance of being an anti-racist from knee-high to a grasshopper. Then they have constant school events that are arranged at football clubs. So I think I can't think of any Premiership football club who is not involved now with Show Racism the Red Card, but obviously some at different levels. And they have international backing as well. Scotland and Wales and England give them great international backing. So they have a number of events at schools where they bring celebrities, but they end up into workshops. So you see the kids going off into these workshops, and they're presented with pictures and asked for their views in respect of it. And then they have some wonderful anti-racist educators who are engaged with it. Laura Pidcock worked for Show Racism and the Red Card for a long time. And they just constantly teach. And on top of that, obviously, we have Wear Red Day, which is the 22nd of October this year in England and Wales. And that's a day for people to wear red, make a donation of £1 to Show Racism and the Red Card in order to show again that you're an anti-racist. And then more recently, there's been a lot of work that's been going on around Islamophobia as well, and anti-brown racism. So it's constantly evolving, but the level of work they do with young people, Andrea, is just extraordinary.
Oh, that's brilliant to hear. But I'm going to give you an interesting fact of the day. I am actually a football coach.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yep, I am actually a football coach. I qualified in 2017. And I was also working at my local football club as well with the youngsters. I was working with the 3 to 7 year olds. It was funny. These children love getting into it, and they're so passionate about football as well, the younger ones. I really did enjoy it. But due to working commitments and going into mental health and stuff, I had to stop doing it. But I did love training the younger ones. That they're brilliant, and obviously they're the future as well. So
absolutely. And I have to say, one of the things that I always look to reference it whenever I'm speaking on behalf of Show Racism and the Red Card, an event or anything, is that it never ceases to amaze me the time that professional footballers are prepared to put aside to fight racism in society. And it says a lot about where footballers have come from. They come from working class communities. They've experienced racism in their own lives. And even though many of them now have extraordinary wealth, they haven't forgotten the importance of their role in society. And they put that time aside, not just to speak at events. You know, sometimes you're at an event and really the footballers look as if they're almost a little bit of trophy that's there in order for people to want to come to the event, and they take that role on and they play that role out. But then you see them at the school events, you see them at the workshops, you see them interacting with the kids, showing the kids the experiences that they had whenever they were children. And it all goes together to, well, as Nelson Mandela said, if you can teach somebody to be a racist, you can teach them not to be a racist. And that's what the charity is all about.
Thank you, Howard. So Howard, how can the members of my audience get involved with the campaign? How do we sign up?
Well, I would like to encourage everybody to sign up to Show Racism and the Red Card. So first of all, if you're a member of a branch of Unite, I constantly bang the drum for the branches to affiliate to Show Racism and the Red Card. Show Racism and the Red Card is absolutely 100% in need of donations. It's funded on donations. And whenever people whenever people are looking to what is good about the trade union movement, and there is plenty, I always direct them to Show Racism and the Red Card as well, because the trade unions have kept Show Racism and the Red Card alive. It is a truth that all of the trade unions have at various stages contributed. But if you're a member of a branch, ask your branch to affiliate to Show Racism and the Red Card. If you're not a branch member, if you're just watching the programme, first of all, join a union, get in a union, be part of this, be part of everything that we're trying to do as a collective. But secondly, if you just go on to Show Racism and the Red Card's website, you'll see there that you can sign up to be a supporter. That means you'll get information about everything that's going on around Show Racism and the Red Card. You'll get the opportunity to engage in those events, and you get the opportunity, obviously, to promote events yourself, such as Wear Red Day.
All right, what we'll do after the show is we'll put links to all of the website and social media as well, so people can, get on there straight away rather than having to search. How does that sound, Howard?
Brilliant. And I'll get Show Racism and the Red Card to stream this as well, Andrea. They can show it on their website as soon as we've got little clips of it.
Right, Howard, thank you so much for speaking on Show Racism, the Red Card. We're now going to move on to the fun bit. How did you get involved with workplace organising and Unite Union, mate?
Right. Oh, my word. That's a story and a half. Well, listen, whenever you grew up in Northern Ireland, in the time that I grew up in Northern Ireland, it was very difficult politically. It was very difficult at times to find your own political home, your own political voice. Northern Ireland politics at the time, and, I would describe myself as somebody who's very political with a small p. Northern Ireland's politics at the time was driven by the war, driven by sectarianism, division in society. It's very difficult to know where to go to. My own background, I suppose, was one that was a little bit colourful insofar as my mother was from the south of Ireland, my father from London, and then I was born in Northern Ireland. I was born in Northern Ireland the year that the Troubles started. Neither of my parents really ever were, fully understanding of the sectarianism that was in Northern Ireland. They just didn't buy into it, I suppose, is the reality of it. My mother was turned off religion from a young age. She was a district nurse, and my father had just moved across from England, and it was a foreign type of experience for him. So, as I said before, I was brought up as a Catholic, but I wasn't. I went to a non-religious school, but experienced sectarianism, and because of that, I think my politics was driven towards trade unionism at a very early age. The Northern Ireland civil rights movement was going on during my childhood. It was a very violent time in Northern Ireland, but it was also a time whenever Catholics were asking for civil rights in respect of rights of housing and indeed rights in the workplace. And there were marches that happened from Derry to Belfast. And that civil rights movement was supported by the trade union movement, in particular the Transport and General Workers Union, which was one of the predecessor unions to Unite. And indeed the historic offices in High Street in Belfast of the Transport and General Workers Union were used for a lot of those civil rights rallies. So my politics was very quickly drawn towards the trade union. And then whenever I left Northern Ireland to go to England to study law, I very quickly found myself in a legal practice that was concentrated on trade unionism, trade union rights, and protecting workers in the workplace. And then from there, I met Liverpool Dockers, was heavily involved in Merseyside and the unemployment centres, and with the Liverpool Dockers themselves, and with some welfare benefit centres that my practice was running. And then whenever Len McCluskey became General Secretary in 2011, 2010, I took up the position of Legal Director for Unite in 2011 and have been there ever since.
Oh, nice one, Howard. And as we all know, you are running for the General Secretary position. How will you fight for ethnic minorities, Howard? Why should I tell ethnic minorities to vote for Howard Beckett?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Andrea. And the reality is that we do know that ethnic minorities and women, I have to say, are underrepresented within trade unionism. And I think a lot of that is genuinely historical, in that the workplaces that trade unions have organised have been predominantly white, and to some extent predominantly white and male. And as a consequence, our union has a certain demographic and doesn't fully represent the voice. I think, as you know, as most people know, I believe that the role of a trade union is within the whole of society. I don't believe it's just within a workplace. It's very important that trade unions, certainly Unite, doesn't limit itself to simply being an organisation that represents people within a workplace. We have to represent people within wider society. And that clearly is about dealing with racism that exists in society and underrepresentation that exists in society, and the importance of driving through that. So I suppose the first thing, Andrea, is I point to the time whenever I was the regional secretary in the West Midlands to say to people about the reality of how I did look to find champions of the ethnic communities, made sure that anti-racism was on the agenda of everything that we were doing in the West Midlands, and made sure that we were recruiting from ethnic minorities to make sure that there was proper representation, and that would continue. But also, I think that we have to accept that we need a structure within the union that goes completely to decolonization, ensures that the equalities committees are referenced throughout all of our industrial combines, make sure that we have national organisers for minorities within all of our sectors, not just one national organiser, and just make sure that everything is fed through and lead by example in respect of it. And I think we can do that as an organisation. I was thinking that, Andrew, actually after the Kill the Bill rally on Saturday, and I was just thinking how, because as you know, an awful lot of that, if not all of it, was organized by young Black activists who are just basically saying, I've had enough of the status quo in society, this racism that is institutionalized, and it is institutionalized. There's no report in the world that can tell us otherwise. It is institutionalized, and I could talk forever as to the examples of why it's institutionalized. But I was just looking at all of those young Black activists with so much to give to society. And I, as a trade unionist, was wondering how many of them are in a trade union, how many of them are then active within their trade union, how many understand that collectivism and class issues and trade union issues are wrapped up in racism within society. And it's only by addressing all of those class and socialist issues that we could actually address racism. And it gave me a great deal of hope seeing so many great voices and great icons of the young Black movements. But we as a union have a responsibility to make sure that they are in a union, and so as they become class and socialist issues as well as anti-racist issues.
No, thank you, Howard. You're spot on there. So in terms of, what would you be bringing new to the union?
On issues of anti-racism? No,
in general, what will you be bringing new to the union? So what are your ideas that will be coming out to us?
All right. Yes. The manifesto heard here first.
The manifestos, yeah. Let's hear it here. Dude.
Well, listen, let me just say about like we touched, obviously we talked about anti-racism and the role, but that will be one of the central roles, the central themes that I will have going through my tenure as General Secretary. The role of Show Racism the Red Card, for example, and Show Racism the Red Card at the moment obviously is mainly focused on schools, but I want to see it have a proper role within our union, and so as it's focused within workplaces as well, not just within workplaces in order to teach people about unconscious bias or direct racism, in order to educate, but also in order to be able to assist in finding champions. So the real thing that I talk about, Andrew, I suppose the question has got me in the hop here, but the real thing I talk about in respect to this is the importance of everything we do as a union working together. So I am tired of watching the union work in silos. One department operates over here, another operates over here, and so on. And I think the narrative that most describes that is whenever you hear people talking about the union is too focused on political, it needs to be more focused on industrial, or the union is too focused on its community membership, it needs to be more focused on its aerospace membership. All of that is nonsense. The union operates whenever it operates together, and no one issue overtakes the importance of another issue. It's about us making sure that departments work together. So the big thing that I would look to bring to the union is that the industrial, the political, the education would all work in tandem together. They would not work in silos. Our responsibility as a union is to find champions in workplaces, find champions in communities, find champions of ethnic minorities, and allow them to go in that journey from being a member to being an activist, to being a representative, to being an officer, to being a representative outside of the union. Allow people to go in that journey where we find just a stream of champions who want to step forward, represent where they come from, represent the people that they talk for, but have the confidence of having a massive union behind them who is prepared to achieve that. So I like to talk in the language, Andrea, the importance of a general secretary is to understand the power that you have, but to be prepared to give that power away, to be able to empower others to take their voice forward on behalf of the union. And that means a union that is far less centralized. It means a union that talks for communities, its sectors, also nations and regions. It means a union that's prepared to go out and find many faces of the union and many champions of the union.
Oh, nice one, Howard. And as you know, we do all have our critics. What do you say about yours? So things that have come up for me anyway, doing my research anyway, is that people feel that you're more interested in Labour than you are with working class people. I've also heard that that you would make a good General Secretary for Labour. and that you would even make a good leader for Labour, but they don't feel that you would make a good union leader. So what would you say on this? Because I don't agree, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
Thank you. Well, listen, I like people just addressing me with these things so as you can get them out there and get them dealt with. In order to be a general secretary of an organisation such as Unite, a union such as Unite, you need to tick a lot of boxes. You need to be somebody who's cohesive. You need to be able to bring people with you. You need to be a person who knows how to form a team. And you need to refuse to allow people to put you in the types of boxes that you've just described. Now, people do look to put you in the boxes that you've described, and there's a good reason for that, and that is that there's a populist narrative out there at the moment that the union is too involved in politics. Not just me, but the union generally is too involved in politics, and that has an agenda. That narrative, that agenda, obviously comes out of the Corbyn years, comes out of Len's rule with Corbyn, and comes out of the things that Unite did to try and protect that project. And obviously Unite, certainly if I was General Secretary, would continue on a project of believing that a socialist society is the ultimate goal that we are all trying to create. So that narrative has a certain amount of populism in order to try and pigeonhole people as they're that, or they're that. And I said it before and I'll say it again, I reject that narrative. The union is big enough to be involved in every facet that we do within society. And the truth about politics is that it doesn't exist in Westminster. It exists in people's communities, and it exists in their workplace. It exists in their everyday lives. The reality as to why nurses and those who work in the NHS are being offered 1% at the moment is because of the society that we live in. It's because of politics of the society we live in. Nobody can deny what the role that they have played through COVID industrially. Yet here we are with the government still offering the 1%. Why is the government doing that? Because frankly, they think they can get away with it. So we have to understand that the debate about whether or not trade unions should be involved in politics, that happened over 100 years ago. That debate has been had. The voice of our class, the voice of working class people, needs to be heard in the corridors of political power as much as it needs to be heard in the communities and as much as it needs to be heard in the workplace. Now, Andrew, there's a good argument to say that that unions and our focus generally as a movement is too premised on Westminster and what goes on at Westminster. I personally believe that the politics of our nations now is moving away from solely Westminster and is moving into our nations and moving into our regions. And I think that's where people feel that they have control over their own lives. So that's a different narrative. But I suppose the final thing that I would say in respect of it is that the analysis is convenient for people who want to talk as if the union shouldn't be involved in politics. It's not an accurate analysis in respect of my role within the union. If people want to look at my personal role within the union, then it's one where I can list off industrial achievements that go on and on. I'm the lead officer who deals with British Airways, who find themselves constantly in dispute. I was the lead officer coming out of our INEOS dispute at Grangemouth in Scotland, where we had to keep our collective together. I was the regional secretary in the West Midlands for 18 months, during which time I led 2 bin disputes against the Labour Council in Birmingham in order to protect people's working conditions. I was responsible for the settlement for Vistian workers, which was millions and millions of pounds for a site that was shut by Ford whenever I became legal director, and nobody had a solution to it, and our settlement was one of millions and millions of pounds on behalf of those members. I led the union in respect of blacklisting and the disgraceful reality of what that meant for the construction sector, and the fact that no one had previously been able to expose it. So the narrative does not stack up whenever it's about my day-to-day job. My day-to-day job is constantly dealing with members who are in workplace, who have industrial issues, who need representation and need somebody to be able to champion their rights. But it is a convenient narrative that is created in order to try and move the union away from its responsibilities of politics. And it's a convenient narrative that is created as if politics sits in something separate to our industrial and our community demands, because they're all interlinked, Andrea.
No, do you know what? Thank you for having your say on this, Howard. As I said, we all have our critics, and I wanted you to have an opportunity to answer some of the things that I have heard recently. But anyway, let's go on to my branch now, because I'm sorry, but the housing workers branch is the best branch in Unite. I'm sorry, by far. I am going to do this. We have got wicked organisers. We're really, really active, and our work. We've got 16,000 members as well, which is just absolutely amazing. The stuff that's been coming up with rough sleepers at the moment. You've heard of the campaign that we're currently running as well on no non-EU rough sleepers being deported, and we had issues with PPE as well, not being available for staff and stuff like that. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on the best branch in Unite, and what would you offer members from that branch as GS?
Support, Andrea. First of all, knowledge as to what goes on in the sector, because I do have knowledge as to what goes on in the sector. It's been a constant challenging sector in respect of being able to organise. Getting collectives in there has been a constant challenge. You're faced in a sector where you would expect decent employment practices. You're faced with the worst of employment practices. It seems to be some sort of horrible flip of society at the moment, where if you think about housing sector and you think about the care sector, and even if you think about the health sector, where you expect the best of standards because of the jobs that people are doing, caring for people, trying to provide them with roofs over their heads in the most difficult of circumstances. And what do you end up with? Constantly the worst of employment practices. And you end up with the worst of employment practices because of the constant transfer of contracts. You end up because people are left with only two ways of making additional profit: either lessening the service that you provide or lessening the terms and conditions of those who work within the service. And it commonly ends up, as the latter, where the terms and conditions are lessened. So what I would offer to the sector is support, unerring support in respect of it. It needs to be organised. Obviously, we recently had the Unison case in the Supreme Court, where sleeping time is not considered to be working time. So many, and that affects not just the care sector, that affects many in your sector, who, as a consequence of that, whenever they're on call in the workplace, in reality are receiving less than the minimum wage. That needs to be exposed. It isn't, we know now that it is not a legal action that's going to resolve that. It will be industrial weight and political weight that will resolve that. That gets resolved by organising, recruiting, making sure that you have the strength of the collective, and frankly, doing what we have done in other sectors where there's been outsourcing. So at this moment in time, we have a dispute on in Babcock in Scotland, which is obviously an industrial workplace. It's an MOD workplace, but it's similar experiences where there's outsourcing that is going on, a constant lessening of terms and conditions, and they've just said industrially no, and they've taken strike action. And that's, Andrew, what needs to happen more and more in the housing sector. We've had successes in the past in St Mungo's, in Centrepoint. We've had successes where people have taken strike action. And as you say, and I'm with you 100% on this, what a brilliant sector. Everybody really understands the politics of why they're being paid so little. They understand that this is about society taking from them without giving anything back. They understand the need to be in a collective, and they have got fight in them. They're ready to have a go, and that's what we have to harness. So what I would give in one simple word, Andrea, is support. All of the support that they need in order to be able to fight these bad employment practices.
No, I'm so grateful for you for saying all of that, Howard, to be honest, because that is literally what we need. We need the support, because literally some of the cases that I've come up with as a rep, I've dealt with 16 cases, 4 of them white people, the majority of them are Black, Asian and other minorities. And it's just been absolutely ridiculous, some of the things that they've been pulled in for. So, I'm looking forward to obviously, seeing your campaign and hopefully seeing you win as well. That's what we want. So, the most important thing is now, how do members join the campaign, Howard?
Well, it's a Facebook, Andrea. So please, and there's a group within that Facebook for everybody who wants to be an active supporter. I'm blown away by the amount of support that the campaign is receiving. There's over 1,700 now on that Facebook group. Is well over that in respect of followers, over 5,000, I think, in respect of followers. But that group is where you can put in and give your details, give what your skill set is that you think you can do to help the campaign and spread the word. You know, one of the simplest things that I'm saying to people right here now, because obviously branch nominations is the first step in respect of this, is do you know branch secretaries? If you do know branch secretaries, please, do ask if they'll talk to me. Can you share their details with me? Do they want to invite me to their branch? What is it that they want to know about the campaign going forward? What is it that they want to know about what the union would look like in the next 5 years? And then talk to as many people as possible. This is a grassroots campaign. It doesn't have, it doesn't have a structural support in respect of that you would normally hope for in respect of a campaign. It is grassroots led. It is about people saying what type of union do they want in the future.
Yeah. So Howard, other than campaigning, have you got any other events that you'll be doing, or will you be doing any other live events like Zoom chats about any issues that are going on in the workplace?
Yes, loads. I've got loads and loads that are going on. So I suppose at the moment, Andrea, every single night of the week is an event where I'm trying to get an invitation to branches, talk to the branches, and then do events such as yours on Socialist Telly and make myself available for them. And then we've been doing our own events, obviously, through the union on our collective voice and workers' rights. And those are going fantastically, but we all want to get out there, don't we? And we all want to do events again, like Kill the Bill rally on Saturday, which was just incredible to see people. But just to indulge me a second, Andrea, and Kill the Bill, because it was an amazing event, and I was blown away by the organisers, blown away by how much talent there was there. But just for those who are watching, you couldn't get a more serious piece of legislation that we have to be able to protest against. We cannot allow legislation like this to go silently. It is a simple truth of reality to say that the establishment with legislation such as this will shut down the voices of people such as ourselves, and the establishment in a capitalist society in particular will very quickly become the oppressors. And without the ability to be heard, without the ability to protest, you are left with being silenced. And if you're left with being silenced, you will be the oppressed in society. So it is absolutely vital for all of us that we have the bravery to step forward in respect of legislation such as this and say, it doesn't matter whether or not you pass it through your parliamentary books or not, we'll never accept it.
Exactly, spot on, Howard. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on and listening to, what you're going to be doing in terms of campaigning for General Secretary, and also the amazing work you do for Show Racism, the Red Card. What I'm going to say is we're going to have to come back on and we'll do another show on Show Racism, the Red Card, as we've got another member of Labour Black Socialists that actually works with that organisation as well and would like to do something with you. So we're definitely
brilliant.
And yeah, we'll bring some of the people from the organisation as well. We have a big event. And yeah, I was going to ask as well, do they have the shirts still, the T-shirts for Show Racism, the Red Card?
They do, Andrea. Yeah, and I've got a number of them in my office.
So I feel like we
one.
all have one. We should all have one on the day, and we sit there and we try and get some money and get some donations for the organisation. How does that sound?
Sounds great, Andrew. And if you want me to get I more than happily get somebody like Shaka onto your show to talk about Show Racism, the Red Card, and because it's just so many people who contribute their time to Show Racism, the Red Card, because it is just a wonderful charity. Can you imagine a world where we educate children away from racism at the age of 6? Can you imagine it? And because it is the purpose of the show, just to finish on it, that we couldn't, we don't even have any anti-racism on the school curriculum at this moment in time. Whenever we're going through what we're going through in society, seeing seeing a denial of institutional racism that we all know exists. We all know. You only have to look at the fact that there's only a handful of lecturers who are from Black and Asian minorities out of 22,000 lecturers. I think there's less than 200 are from Black and Asian. It's obvious that it's institutionalized. We know it's institutionalized. And there's no political party who at the moment are talking about getting anti-racism onto the school curriculum. It's only Show Racism the Red Card that is filling that gap with young people. So for me, I just think it's the only way to deal with racism in society is education and education of young people.
Well, I've actually got some news for you there, Howard, because Wandsworth Labour actually brought a motion to decolonise the curriculum in the Wandsworth Borough. It was led by me. I actually run a Wandsworth anti-racist campaign group for education. And I've got about 29 members from Wandsworth. They're Wandsworth residents. They're actually not members of the Labour Party as well. And it's been a brilliant experience, but our motion didn't pass because our council, unfortunately, is Tory-led. So there's a big majority there. And rather than actually discuss the issue and discuss the concerns of the residents, they focused more on the language of the word decolonise and how it's pretty much a big and bad and scary word. So, it didn't pass. And here we are, but we're going to continue to fight. And hopefully in the future, when we take them out of the council elections next year, hopefully that will be the first motion I will pass if I get in. So let's see.
They're too busy passing legislation to try and protect the monuments of racists, aren't they?
Yeah, I know.
Actually, it's disgraceful. But Andrea, thank you for everything you're doing. You're like a whirlwind at the moment. You're absolutely everywhere. Obviously, you spoke on Saturday, which is great, and all that you're doing within your branch, all that you're doing with Black Labour Socialists, and all you're doing in respect of your work and as a rep is just incredible. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you for coming on, and we'll definitely keep updated with your campaigning and stuff. We will share your campaigns as well, and we will be in touch with you again. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. Take care.
Take care, mate. Now I am going to pass over to the beautiful and delightful Akua, who's going to update us about the Labour Black Socialist Anti-Racist campaign. Over to you, my love.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you, Howard. I love sitting in the background listening to these conversations. Really inspiring. I didn't know that much about Show Racism the Red Card. I also confused it with Kick Racism Out of Football, having a footballing son, and it's really, really inspiring. And I made a note to take it to my Unite branch, but also I lead in the anti-racism subcommittee for Greater Manchester Tenants Union. So I think we would be really interested in also affiliating. So let me screen share and get off the picture as soon as I can and show you what we're doing in social media. I'm going to focus on our Instagram account. Why am I focusing on our Instagram account? Because I think I managed to share everything that we are sharing on our Facebook, but our Facebook and our Twitter account are places worth going. So obviously I showed you this earlier. It's a great place. I think on the first one, yes, it has the details of the website there. So that's out on our Instagram account. So as well as it going out with this video, if people want to go to Labour Black Socialists on Instagram, they can find out information, and I will post a link around the show. It's been an incredibly busy week. Obviously, there was the rally, and I think I'm going to find some posts that we did. Because we were out in force. We were out in force. And I love this quote from one of our members. Look into these eyes and see a better world. Justice is what love looks like in public, so said Dr. King. These people came out to bear witness to love. That is to respect all human beings despite differences, protect and correct. And I'll just show you some of the things within that you can find. I think we might know someone who is rather involved with this campaign, and a really inspiring set of photographs. These are all from Labour Black Socialist members who shared their stuff. And I think you can find a link to this speech if you go via this person's account as well. And I think it's out on our Facebook as well as our Twitter. And then just to relive a moment of the sort of crowd being there and the swell through, it's just, yeah, I'm up in Manchester. I wasn't well last week, and yeah, just seeing the activity and being able to share it and being part of it and taking then action and seeing where the Labour, the campaign for an actively anti-racist Labour Party fits in within this is really important to be part of that campaign, to get the Labour Party actually acting as the opposition that it should be, fighting against this bill, against other legislation. And obviously that would move on to, if I look at other posts, I'll go back to that one later. Let me just go. This was an interesting one that I thought would share, that just really speaks about what the CRED report, or the incredible report, or the not credible report has to say. And Labour Black Socialists has put out a statement urging the government to reject this inadequate report that is more telling about what the government would like to hear rather than what it should hear. And again, you can come in and have a look at our Instagram to see more of that statement from us. Let's see what else we have on here. Obviously, this has been really shocking, and we've been putting out a statement of support in terms of attacks on the Southeast Asian community. Go to check out our Facebook page. We have some more details, the links. I'm not going to linger on there, but it's really important that if you want to come to a place to find out the sorts of campaigns and the ways that people can get informed and get active as Labour Party members, as active anti-racist Labour Party members, there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of information, just as you're doing here, Andrea, on Socialist Telly and Socialist Strawberries. We're not just sort of pointing a finger and sitting back. We're actually there to support and help comrades actually get informed and get active. All of this. Let me just come out for a second and go to I suppose one of the bigger, very direct things that happened in terms of our campaign. Camden Momentum have launched their own selective campaigning, and they featured and were inspired and supported our statement and our motion as part of that. I think I have to look where I've got images within that. I think not. I think again, you can find the video and the work done. Yes, there's a video here, which you can see. Maurice McLeod, Andrea, and myself all spoke at the launch of this campaign that Camden Momentum put on. And it's really great. We're getting that support, and we'd encourage others to reach out to us. We'll come, we'll talk, we'll share. And I think I'll leave it there, Andrea.
Thank you, Kuwa. That was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, we've been doing really, really great work with this campaign. I can't wait for CLP branches to get back up and running so we can actually pass these motions, because I'm getting more confidence that people are, getting behind us on having a actively anti-racist party.
Yeah,
but anyway,
actually, I should have listed there's quite a few CLPs, including Manchester Central, which actually I would say down to Councillor Amna Abdulatif, who did an amazing a job of supporting the motion through. I wasn't able to attend, and the person who put the motion, so I was really delighted to hear that it had been accepted in Manchester.
Nice one, Akuwa. Always great to hear from you, and cannot wait to hear from you next week. Hopefully we'll have more updates about what we will be doing and where we will be heading as well. But anyway, folks, it has been absolutely great, this show. I've been really, really excited to have Howard on, and I can't wait for this to get out tomorrow. So thank you, everybody, and yes,